That's not how this works. She is not the last turkey in Big Tesco on Christmas Eve. The secondhand embarrassment was real. A giant man is going to come for me in my place of work and pick me up and like abduct me to his sex dungeon. You would think that the female main character is like smashing the BFG. Romantic, but also incredibly horny. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Happy holidays. Hopefully it will still be holiday season by the time I actually finish filming and editing and uploading this video. Let's hope it is still 2024 by the time you're watching this. And if you're not watching this in 2024 and it's instead the year 3010 and artificial intelligence has taken over the world and Elon Musk has implanted his consciousness into a massive supercomputer and is now ruling the known universe, God help us. Anyway, since it is currently a holiday season here in 2024, I thought it would be fun to make a video reading and reviewing a few Christmassy, holiday, festive books that I have accumulated over the past few months. So let's get started with that. It's kind of a mixture of physical books and ebooks that I've kind of compiled, and I'll just see how many I can read until I get extremely bored. Anyway, let's go through the physical books that I have on my TBR. As I said, kind of a mixture of things. Firstly, we have this one, Make My Wish Come True by Rachel Lippincott and Alison Derrick. This is a young adult sapphic holiday romance with fake dating, so it's gonna get quite hallmarky, I think, quite quickly in this one, but hopefully it'll be cute. Then we have a couple of literary fiction books that just happen to be set during Christmas. So Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, which I really, really hope lives up to the hype, because everyone loves this book, everyone raves about it, and I have been putting off reading it for months so that I can read it over Christmas. So yeah, hopefully I won't be disappointed. So yeah, there's that. Then there is also Animal Life by Alda Eva Olafsdottir, I think that's how you pronounce the author's name, translated from the Icelandic by Brian Fitzgibbon, which is very exciting. I haven't actually read a book translated from Icelandic before, so that is super exciting. Another kind of literary fiction type book. And then finally we have Terry Pratchett's Lost Story collection, A Stroke of the Pen, which came out last year. I did not realise that this was going to be Christmassy. I did attempt to start reading it back in October, because it's on my list of 24 books to read in 2024, and I was kind of trying to blast through that list as quickly as possible, and then I realised that it was Christmassy, and you know, you can't not read a Christmassy book in December. It's just not the vibe. So yeah, I've been putting this one off, and it is the last book on my list that I need to check off, so I think this is going to be a priority. This might be one of the first books that I get to, so yeah, hopefully it'll be good. It's a short story collection. I quite enjoy short story collections. Yeah, and then in terms of ebooks, they're pretty much entirely rom-coms, romances. I have a book called Look Up Handsome, which is a gay holiday romance set in Hay-on-Wye, the book town in Wales, and the main character is the owner of the village's only queer bookshop, which, I mean, it sounds like it has like all the right ingredients for a romance that I will enjoy. You know, it's about books, and it's got queer representation, and so they've got that kind of small town vibe that I quite enjoy. So yeah, depending on how like cheesy and all in they've gone with like the holiday hallmark tropes, we'll see. But quite excited to read that. And then I also have The Nightmare Before Kissmas, which I think is a like fake dating and or marriage of convenience holiday romance that is also queer with maybe fantasy elements. I actually don't know much about the book, to be honest. I saw loads of TikToks about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then got it on a Kindle deal. So yeah, might read that as well, seeing how much time I get. All depends. But I'm going to start off today with a series of audiobooks. Kindle Unlimited had a collection of short holiday romance stories that came out last month, written by a bunch of like quite well-known romance authors like Ali Hazelwood, Tessa Bailey, those kinds of people. All kind of short stories, all available as audiobooks on Kindle Unlimited, and I have quite a long car journey ahead of me. We're going on a day trip to Winchester to visit my sister at uni. So that means I can just like sit in the back of the car and listen to the audiobooks. And yeah, I think they're all like less than an hour long, because I do tend to play them quite fast. I play them on like at least 2 times speed. So hopefully I will get through all of them either on the way there or on the way back. And yeah, we'll see. And that means I would have gotten this video off to a running start. Having like 5 entire books down within the first day of December. You know, they're all short stories. They're less than like 100 pages long each, but they still count as books. Reading is reading, guys. So yeah, I'm gonna go and go on a car journey, listen to the audiobooks, and I will report back later on with what I thought of them. Hello. I thought I'd get a little bit more into the Christmas spirit. So I've got my sparkly jumper on. It's like literally bright red. And quite warm, actually. I think we've got the heating on in the house, so might maybe have been a mistake. I've also got bauble earrings. Yeah, I have amassed a collection of festive earrings at this point. So yeah, they will all get used throughout the course of this month and then immediately be put away for the next 11. So yeah, anyway, I listened to all the audiobooks for all 5 of the short stories in the Under the Mistletoe collection on Kindle Unlimited, and I have thoughts. Yeah, I have thoughts. I want to preface this by saying I'm not like a massive romance person. Normally, if I'm reading a romance, I like want there to be something going on outside of the relationship, you know, be that either like the main plot line and the romance is like a subplot, or have the characters have like a personality and issues outside of each other, which is quite difficult to do when you're working to a tight-ish word count like in a short story. So yeah, I think one of my main issues with the short stories was the fact that it felt somewhat underdeveloped and a bit surface level, which, you know, that's a thing that happens in short stories a lot of the time, especially like short story romances, because you don't have a lot of time to kind of set up the whole like relationship, really. So yeah, that was a big issue with it, with all of the short stories, I think. And also, I am even more not a big reader of spicy romance, like romance with like lots of spicy scenes. And each of these short stories does have at least one scene with heavy spice. And normally, like, if I'm reading a spicy scene, I can just kind of skim read through it, focus on like the dialogue and stuff. I could not do that when I was listening to it, because the second I would have tuned out, I would have just like lost the plot entirely. So yeah, I had to listen to all of that in the car, in the back seat with my parents in the front driving. And I was just literally in the back, just leaning against the window like this, trying very hard not to look at my parents in the eye through the mirror. Yeah. It was, yeah, rough. But you know, I brought this upon myself. It's what I deserve. So I'm going to do a very quick kind of quick fire review of all of the short stories from least favourite to favourite, worst to best. Starting off in 5th place, I have my notes right here. I use post-it notes for everything nowadays. In 5th place, we have Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. God, even just thinking about this story, it makes me cringe, honestly. This is a short story set in Texas over Christmas. It's kind of a chicken farmer meets a single mother. There's a whole gentle giant trope with a size difference, and actually, like, the size difference thing is a recurring motif in pretty much all these short stories, apart from one, I think. It's always like the man is always a giant man, and he is also well endowed, and it's made quite a big thing of in all of these short stories. It's just, okay. Yes, giant man meets tiny woman. And like, am I supposed to feel represented by this as a tiny woman? Am I supposed to feel honoured to get so much representation? If anything, it makes me quite scared that one day a giant man is going to come for me in my place of work and pick me up and like abduct me to his sex dungeon. That's actually quite a scary thought. I don't like that at all. So yeah, most of the stories do have this kind of size difference trope in them, but this was by far the worst culprit. The male main character is, I believe, 6'6", they mention, which, like, yeah, that's towards kind of the top end of like heights for people, but it's not like completely unnatural. And yet his massive size is mentioned in pretty much every other sentence, like so often that you would think that the female main character is like smashing the BFG or something. It was just cringe, and it got even worse somehow during the spicy scene. I don't even want to like recall it. Yeah, it was not fun to read, especially not like in the presence of my parents. A mistake, yeah. That was the worst one. And then just slightly ahead of that, we have Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood, which kind of surprised me how much this short story disappointed me, because like I've read 2 other Ali Hazelwood books and I've enjoyed them. I read Bride and I've read Check and Mate, and they were kind of 3.75, 4-star reads. They were fine. They were pretty decent. And you know, I have been slightly tempted to kind of dip my toe into her feminist romance series or collection, like Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis, etc, etc. However, after reading this, I think I might be good without, I think. So this short story is childhood friends / rivals to lovers. It's best friend's brother. It's the main characters are snowed in. Again, there's a size difference. I have heard Ali Hazelwood does enjoy her giant men in her books, and this is no different. So my main issue with this one was that the male main character gave me the ick. His whole thing with like saying to the female main character, oh, I've loved you for years and I've known you were going to be mine since we were kids, since I was 12. It's kind of as if the female main character doesn't have a choice in the matter. It's like this guy thinks he's entitled to the female main character because what, he saw her first? That's not how this works. She is not the last turkey in Big Tesco on Christmas Eve. I don't know, the whole thing made me slightly uncomfortable. Actually, not slightly uncomfortable, quite uncomfortable. And that is less to do with the writing style, because I know that I enjoy Ali Hazelwood's writing style just from reading some of her other books, and more to do with the actual tropes employed. So, you know, if you are a fan of childhood friends to lovers, if you're a fan of best friend's brother tropes, if you enjoy that whole kind of possessive thing, then like, I'm not gonna yuck anyone's yum. You go ahead, you might enjoy it. But yeah, for me, just wasn't really my thing. I love how I said that I was going to do a quick fire review of all of these stories, and I've been yapping for well over 10 minutes now, and we've only gotten through 2 of them. This is going really well. Okay, sitting slap bang in 3rd place is Only Santa's in the Building by Alexis Daria. This is a story about neighbours in a New York City apartment building. There's a secret admirer element to it, a little bit of a mystery. There's a holiday party. And this is in 3rd place because there were things I did appreciate about this book. Not necessarily enjoy, but I appreciated it. Such as, I think this is the only story where the main part of the story doesn't end at the spicy scene. Like, not counting like epilogues and stuff. This, I think, is the only story where the storyline, the plot, the conflict isn't like completely resolved by the 2 main characters having sex. Like, there is conversation and communication that happens afterwards that does resolve everything, and I appreciate that, because that is a lot more realistic. You know, things aren't solved by sex, unfortunately. However, that said, the aforementioned spicy scene was incredibly cringy to read, which definitely docked at some points. Like, there are only so many festive themed innuendos I can hear before I go fully crazy, and that number is probably 0, actually. I can't remember what those innuendos were, because I think I just blocked them out of my memory as soon as I heard them. I think there was something about a pigs in blankets situation going on. I've no idea. I think candy canes were involved, maybe. But other than that, it's all gone, and I am thankful for it. In 2nd place is Merriment and Mayhem by Alexandria Bellefleur. This was cute. It is kind of a accident-prone woman meets hot fireman story. And it read like a Hallmark film. I could so easily see it on the Hallmark channel. And like, it's similar to a Hallmark film in the sense that like, it's not good. Like, you don't expect a Hallmark film to win any Oscars or anything, and this isn't gonna win any literary awards. It's cheesy and sappy and extremely unrealistic. However, you know, it was still fun to read. It was cute. Yeah. That's about it, really. It was a cute story, and I think possibly the first out of the ones that I've reviewed that I would actually recommend. Probably. Yeah. It was cute, it was fun. But that means in the top spot, in 1st place, is All by My Elf by Olivia Dade. This is about professors, academics at a university who have to take a holiday job and work a really, really rubbish retail job over the holidays that has them traveling around the country in a embarrassing looking van. They get snowed in, stuck in traffic, they have to cuddle for warmth, there's secret crushes. There's a plus size protagonist, which is very cool. And also, this is, I think, the only short story that doesn't involve like a giant man. In fact, I think it's said in the story that the male main character is actually smaller than the female main character. So that is a pretty cool subversion of the size difference trope. I did quite appreciate that, to be honest, after reading all of these books with giant men. It was nice for the short kings to get some representation. And this story was just silly. It was unserious. Like it very clearly did not take itself that seriously. It was overtly tropey, like consciously tropey. And I could see exactly where the story was going. It kind of read a little bit like fan fiction in that way, but I was just sat throughout the whole thing. I knew where it was going and I liked where it was going, so I enjoyed it. And also, I would have like totally read an entire novel based around the concept of university professors having to work an awful retail job and travel around the country in a really embarrassing looking van and get harassed by people on the street. Like, it's a really fun concept and I wanted more of it, which I think is another marker of a good short story. Like, you are kind of left hungry for more, satisfied, but hungry for a bit more. So yeah, those were the 5 short stories. Overall, not massively impressed. 2 out of the 5 being worth the read, ones that I would recommend, and the other 3 being pretty meh. But not a massive waste of my time, really. They were all pretty short, so not a huge loss. Yeah, anyway, what is next? I am about halfway through reading Look Up Handsome on my Kindle. So far it is cheesy. It's very cheesy. It's another one of those books that just feels like a Hallmark film. It's, yeah, hella tropey. But yeah, I am enjoying it so far. And then I think I'm also probably going to start reading A Stroke of the Pen, Terry Pratchett's Lost Stories, just so that I can tick off the last book on my list of 24 books to read in 2024. Oh, it's going to be so satisfying when I finally get to do that. It'll be like a weight lifted off my chest. Very exciting. So yeah, I will update you when I next have an update, I guess. Hello, we're back. Couple updates, couple book reviews. Yeah, finished a couple things. Such as I finished reading Look Up Handsome by Jack Strange. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was alright. It's basically this gay holiday rom-com about the main character is the owner of the only queer bookshop in Hay-on-Wye, the book town in Wales. And it takes place during the kind of the winter literature festival and the lead up to Christmas, and he is facing eviction. His bookshop is facing closure, and he kind of has to find a way to keep his bookshop open, basically. And the love interest is a really famous, well-known romance author who grew up in Hay but moved out pretty quickly, pretty early on, and came back just for the literature festival, but decided to stay and try and keep the bookshop open. So yeah, it does sound very much like a Hallmark film. I mean, you've got like small town vibes and the city boy coming in and trying to keep a local business open. You've got this kind of money hungry businessman antagonist as well, who's trying to close the bookshop. Yeah, it was very kind of Hallmarky, even down to like kind of the quirky best friend of the main character, and even like those kind of annoying minor characters who like come in like every other scene and just say like one or two lines and just kind of are recurring annoyances, pretty much. They just kind of turn up and they don't really do anything to help the plot along. They're just kind of there. Yeah, there were some of those in the book. Yeah, it was cute. It was quite surface level, I felt. The romance itself, it was a bit more of like a backdrop, I guess. It was kind of slightly more of a subplot to the main plot line, which was keeping the bookshop open, which I didn't really mind, actually. I liked there was kind of a big conflict going on outside of the romance. Yeah, no, it was cute. Yeah, it was pretty tropey. It did include kind of pretty much all of like your classic holiday rom-com tropes, as many as like could be squeezed into that book. And again, similar with like the plot points, it did follow very much your average holiday romance storyline, which did make it somewhat predictable. And also the fact that it did kind of have the vibes of like every holiday romance that I have either read or watched did kind of make it a little bit boring. Like, there were some great scenes, there were some parts I really enjoyed, but for the most part I was a little bit bored. I was just kind of waiting for the next big scene, the next kind of enjoyable moment, pretty much. But it was sweet. You know, if you're in the market for a cute queer holiday rom-com that, you know, centers around books and bookshops and stuff, it's definitely worth reading. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was like the best thing I've read. It did feel a little bit surface level and quite slow going at times. But yeah, that was Look Up Handsome by Jack Strange. And then, in very exciting news, I read A Stroke of the Pen, The Lost Stories by Terry Pratchett, which means that I have now read my entire list of 24 books to read in 2024. Whew, thank goodness. It feels like a weight has been lifted off of my chest, honestly, the fact that I have gotten through that list. I did not think I would have read all of them, to be honest. There were certain books that were on the list that I put on the list at the start of the year, and then I got them kind of last month and the month before, and I was like, oh god, do I really have to read those? I was like so close to DNFing some of them, but I pushed through, and we have finished the list now. So this is a collection of Terry Pratchett's early work, most of which was published in newspapers and magazines and stuff under a pseudonym. This was kind of before all like the Discworld stuff and everything. But it still retains a lot of that, like that classic Terry Pratchett style, very kind of light-hearted, whimsical, quite frank prose. Yeah, whimsical is kind of the best word I could find to like describe Terry Pratchett's style. You know, it's just a lot of kind of weird and wonderful things happening. The stakes are always quite low, I find, which is nice. It's like less life-endangering events and more just like mild inconveniences, which is, it's fun to read, I guess. Some of these stories are Christmassy and they center around Father Christmas looking for different jobs, or the elves going on strike, stuff like that. Some of them are not so Christmassy. There are a couple of kind of fairy tale inspired stories going on. A few stories set in this fictional town of Blackberry, where a lot of kind of wacky things happen, strange things happen, and again, it's like nothing that is completely life endangering, but it's more just like weird things that provide mild inconvenience to the villagers for a brief period of time before everything inevitably returns to normal. You know, it's fun. They're the kind of stories that I feel you could like read to a kid for a bedtime story. Like they're kind of fun, kind of sweet, quite easy to read as well. But yeah, they're still, you know, enjoyable for adults as well. And a nice addition to the Terry Pratchett canon as well. There's a bit at the end about the people who compiled this collection of stories, how they came to kind of discover this collection, the research that went into it, and that it was basically them just like spending hours and hours trawling through this archive of newspapers across kind of a certain set of years, looking for stories published under this one pseudonym that they discovered was actually Terry Pratchett. It was really, really interesting to read, kind of after I'd read all of the stories. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Terry Pratchett's writing. Does this mean I'm gonna read the Discworld series? Probably not. I think I'm still very intimidated by the sheer number of books in that series. I'm not particularly a series person. I don't really tend to commit to long series of books. I'm definitely more of a standalone girly, for sure. But I definitely I have an appreciation for Terry Pratchett and his writing now, and yeah, I would definitely recommend this to pretty much anyone, regardless of whether or not you are a big fan, a reader of Terry Pratchett's books. So those are my updates. Next up, I'm going to make a start on Make My Wish Come True. This is going to be another kind of small town rom-com vibe. Let's hope I don't get completely sick of that genre of book, you know, by the end of this video. And yeah, I will let you know my thoughts when I am finished. Hello, this afternoon I finished reading Make My Wish Come True by Rachel Lippincott and Alison Derrick. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really, really cute. It's a sapphic holiday rom-com. Basically, you have kind of this child star, teen star, living in Hollywood who really, really wants to book kind of the biggest role of her life. And then you also have her former best friend who she left behind to go to Hollywood, who has been living in this small town this whole time, and she really wants to get a journalism degree and get into Columbia, and so she needs to write kind of the perfect article in order to boost her resume. And in order for those two things to happen, they decide it's kind of mutually beneficial for them if they fake a relationship for the 12 days before Christmas, which, like, as a premise sounds completely like so unrealistic and wild and out of pocket, but like it makes sense in the context of the book. So on the one hand, you've got kind of them trying to repair their friendship because they spent 4 years just not talking to each other. So they start off with like a lot of guilt and animosity towards each other. And then on the other hand, it's pretty clear from the beginning that there's like a lot of unresolved feelings. like there were unresolved romantic feelings between the both of them when one of the characters left for LA, and they're kind of bubbling under the surface. So there is pining going on. There's a lot of pining, and I was absolutely here for it. So the book all takes place in the small town where they grew up, and it's a town in Pennsylvania, and it's kind of a town that is known for like going big at Christmas. It's like a big Christmas town. It's like snowing all the time. They have hot chocolate competitions. There's a Christmas tree farm. Lots of festive things. So it's kind of the perfect setting for a rom-com. It's like very, very Hallmark vibes. I thought that the bond between these two characters, Arden and Caroline, was really cool. Like, the author's got like the whole vibe of former best friends that like drifted apart and have kind of suddenly been thrown back together. Like, they got that down really well, how it's quite awkward to start off with, like just trying to repair that dynamic, but then suddenly like it's as if no time has passed and you're just, you know, talking and behaving as if nothing has really changed. So yeah, I enjoy reading about their friendship just as much as I enjoyed reading about their romance. And speaking of friendship, I also really liked the relationships outside of like the romantic ones in the book. Like all of Caroline's friends from school, there's a really kind of big, sweet, close friendship group, and that was really fun to read about their kind of adventures and stuff. And you also have Arden's grandmother, Edie, who owns the diner in the town, has a lot of like very chaotic old woman friends that cause a lot of trouble. It was just really cute and really nice going along with Arden and Caroline to their 12 dates leading up to Christmas. And also something else that I really, really loved was the fact that one of the characters, Caroline, has a Jewish mother and Christian father, and her Jewish identity is very much not ignored, despite this being like a primarily Christmas book set in a very Christmassy town. Her kind of Jewish identity is very much integrated into the festivities, and you know, she talks a lot about that side of her not being kind of fully celebrated, not having that kind of the space to celebrate that part of her, but then you get to see like her celebrating Hanukkah with her family, and that's really cool. I don't think I've seen anyone else talk about this book on social media, at least yet. I mean, it only came out a couple months ago, so it hasn't been out for long, but you know, I would still consider it fairly underrated. I don't think I've seen it on any kind of release radars or anything, so yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a sapphic holiday romance. I only have a few books left on my list, actually. Like, it's the 6th of December. That is how few days we have gone through in this video, and we've already been through so many books, which is wild, honestly. But yeah, I am now going to make a start on The Nightmare Before Kissmas, I think. Tomorrow's Saturday, and I don't think I'm doing much. I think we're going Christmas tree shopping in the afternoon, but in the morning I might potentially, if I feel so inclined, pick up Small Things Like These. This is, I think, a book that I want to read in like one sitting, so I think the weekend is the perfect time to do that, and just fully kind of have time to digest it and appreciate it. So yeah, next time I update you, I may well have finished 2 books. Yeah, so I will see you then. Hello, it's been a few days. I have a couple of updates, so let's just get right into it. I finished reading Small Things Like These by Kurt Keegan. Finally, I read this in a single sitting. I sat down one morning and started reading, and I didn't get up until I stopped. It didn't take that long. It took like a couple of hours. It's, you know, it's very short. So yeah, this is a little book that follows a guy called Bill Furlong, who runs the coal and timber shop in this tiny town in rural Ireland. And it follows him in kind of the lead up to Christmas, which is his busiest season. So he's like going about his work and caring for his wife and his 5 daughters. And then one day he is delivering coal to the, what's it called? The convent, the place where nuns are. And the convent has an adjoining laundry that is kind of attached to it. And he is delivering coal there, and he discovers something, not to spoil anything, that kind of makes him question the people he knows in the town and the system within the town itself and the way in which he grew up, and just like his own morality as well. It makes him question pretty much everything. And yeah, the plots from there, I guess. What I like about this book is the prose. I think it's really, really well written. I read one other Claire Keegan book before. I read Antarctica, which is one of her collections of short stories. And again, the prose in that is really, really good. It's very kind of fluid and expertly crafted. Like every sentence is put together really well. You can get some nice quotes out of it. What's interesting about this book is that Bill Furlong isn't actually particularly special in any way. He's a very kind of ordinary man. He is not particularly well off. He's not particularly poor. He's just kind of minding his own business, going about his job, making a living, looking after his wife and daughters. What does kind of set him apart from other people, though, is his goodness and his selflessness. He's kind of selfless to a fault, really, in a way that kind of raises eyebrows amongst this small town where people tend to mind their own business. And that plays into the plot of the book quite significantly. And I guess that inherent goodness in him makes him quite an endearing protagonist, a very interesting one, despite the fact that, like, on the outside, at first glance, he does have a pretty ordinary life. And that's something I think Claire Keegan does really well as well, is make even kind of the most ordinary, mundane lives and existences seem very monumental. It makes it seem like every person's story is worth telling, like every person is the main character in their own story. So yeah, I did enjoy this book. I didn't love it. With the way people rave about this book, I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit life-changing, but yeah, I don't know. The ending felt quite abrupt. So yeah, I don't know if I'm like missing something, maybe. Yeah, it's a good book. It's definitely worth reading. Not amazing, at least to me, not like absolutely life-changing. But yeah, small things like these. I finally read it after putting it off for like months. And then moving on to something completely different, I finished reading The Nightmare Before Kissmas by Sarah Rush, which is a fantasy-esque rom-com that's kind of like if you took the setting of The Nightmare Before Christmas, the film, with like each holiday having its own like kingdom, domain, like governing body, and then mix that with the plotline of Red, White and Royal Blue. If you mix those two together, it's like the love child of those two forms of media. And it is just as wild as you're probably thinking it is just from that summary. So you basically have the Crown Prince of Christmas, the son of Santa Claus, who is called Nicholas, but his nickname is Cole. Yeah, you better get used to all these themed names. There are a lot of them. He is kind of the family disaster. He can't seem to do anything right. He's constantly being told he's a disappointment by his father. And yeah, it's a fun existence. Basically, a year and a half prior to most of the story, he did something not great. He kind of made a bit of a mistake that had quite severe consequences. Subsequently got very drunk at a bar and made out with a complete stranger. Fast forward to the present day, he is put into an arranged marriage with his best friend and the Princess of Easter, someone called Iris, again with the themed names. And this arranged marriage between Christmas and Easter kind of pisses off the Halloween court because they think that Christmas is going to get too powerful once they join forces with Easter. And so they kind of bring in the Prince of Halloween, a guy called Hex, to vie for the hand of the Princess of Easter. So it kind of ends up being like a competition between Cole and Hex. Except, remember the guy that Cole made out with in the bar? That actually was Hex. So yeah, old feelings are kind of drawn up. They are obviously very attracted to each other, and the plots from there. The book is obviously quite silly, as you can probably tell from the summary of the book. However, it does kind of dive into discussing topics like colonialism and like capitalism, because you could potentially view Christmas as like in this book being either an empire with Santa Claus being the emperor, or a Fortune 500 company with Santa Claus being the CEO. Like, it's looking to expand and become more powerful and eventually get as much joy as possible. Joy being like this kind of magic that is kind of the currency in this world where the holidays have kingdoms. It's like the magic system, pretty much. And the amount of joy that you have correlates to the amount of power that you have within this world, and Christmas has a lot of joy and is looking to get more from other holidays, often through rather sinister means, which Cole ends up discovering throughout the book. And yeah, I wasn't really expecting the book to be that deep, because there are a lot of quite silly scenes, a lot of quite cringy scenes. There's like one moment in the book where I had to look up from my Kindle for a good like 30 seconds and just stare at the wall, because I was just like, what? It was just like something that Cole did that I was just like, why would you do that? Do you have like no filter at all? The secondhand embarrassment was real. But outside of that, like, the plotline was super interesting. It was about kind of dismantling this society and this system that actually turned out to be quite harmful and exploitative. So yeah, I was definitely not expecting that. It was quite a pleasant surprise, really. And the romance itself was very cute. There were some really nice lines in there that was just like describing how Cole was feeling about Hex, and it was just very romantic but also incredibly horny. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the spiciest book that I've read in this video, but given that it is a full-length novel as opposed to a short story, like earlier on, it does have the most spicy scenes, so be warned for that, I guess. But yeah, overall, I did really enjoy it, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It was definitely giving Red, White and Royal Blue vibes, and I loved that book, so yeah, I enjoyed it, and the sequel is coming out next March, I believe. So I'm sure I will be reading that at some point as well. The sequel is about Cole's younger brother, who is called Chris, middle name Kringle. So yeah, those are my updates. I only have 2 books left on my list that I want to read in this video. It was originally going to be 1 book, but then I discovered there is another book that I can get as an audiobook on Kindle Unlimited. That is quite short, so I should actually probably finish it in the next, if not today, then definitely tomorrow. It's called The Christmas Book Hunt by Jenny Colgan. And yeah, I'm probably going to read that. And then I'm also going to read Animal Life, which is literary fiction set during Christmas. This is, I think, the one that I am most excited for, actually, most intrigued by, because it's kind of, it's not like the Christmas rom-com where you know what you're getting, you kind of know what to expect. This is full-on literary fiction, and it's translated from Icelandic and set in Iceland, which is super cool, something I haven't really read before. So yeah, I will read that. Again, quite short, so I'll probably finish it in the next couple of days. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do next, and I'm sure I will see you very soon for another update. Hello again. It has literally been a few hours and I've already finished another book, so yeah, I'm going to tell you about it, I guess. So I read The Christmas Book Hunt by Jenny Colgan, which is a short story that's available on Kindle Unlimited. It's about 120 pages, I think. So yeah, quite short. Read it in a single sitting. So yeah, basically it's about this young woman. It's called Mirren, like Helen Mirren. And she's got a great aunt who is dying. They are very close to each other, both kind of studious types, I guess, and it's called Great Aunt Violet, and Great Aunt Violet's dying wish is that she can see this book that she had as a child but then lost one final time before she dies. And it's a this kind of illustrated edition of Robert Louis Stevenson's A Child's Garden of Verses, and it's illustrated by this one artist. But Mirren kind of goes on this search for it, looks it up on the internet, doesn't seem to exist, asks around various booksellers, they don't think it exists either. Turns out it was literally like a one-of-a-kind book that was never actually properly published. So yeah, seems like a pretty impossible feat, to be honest, but she still kind of travels the country. She goes to Hay-on-Wye, she goes to Edinburgh, looking for this book. She kind of joins forces with the nephew of a rare book dealer, and this rare book dealer also wants to get his hands on the book before Mirren does, so he sends this other young man off to do it. They have a little bit of a romance. Yeah, that is the story. It's kind of a cross-country search for an incredibly rare book that may or may not actually exist. And yeah, it was a sweet story. It was cute. It was endearing. I think endearing is the word I would use to describe it best. It was fairly surface level. There wasn't a massive amount of development because it was, you know, quite a short story and a lot of stuff happened in quite few pages. So yeah, there wasn't a huge amount of depth to it. But I still enjoyed it. And another cool thing is I have actually laid hands on a second edition copy of Robert Louis Stevenson's A Child's Garden of Verses, because a copy came into the shop where I work the other day. It was in quite poor condition, and I at first thought it was a first edition, and I got very excited, but then I realised it was a second edition. So depleted the value quite a bit, but it was still quite cool. Not quite as one of a kind as the copy in the book, but yeah, still pretty cool, and a nice kind of connection to the story itself. But yeah, no, it was cute, and it was a nice way to spend a couple of hours, just in terms of like entertainment. Yeah, it was sweet. So now I am actually gonna go on to the final book of this video, which is, of course, Animal Life. I did start this last night, got about 50 pages in, so if I don't finish it tonight, then I will definitely finish it tomorrow, so expect an update pretty soon. Well, it will be soon for you, because it will literally be a few seconds, because I will... That's how video editing goes. It's late. I've had a late night, so yeah, a little bit delirious. But yeah, I'm gonna continue on with this. I will see you when I have finished. Hello, we are back. Welcome to the final update of this video. I have just finished reading Animal Life by Auder Ava Olafsdottir. And yeah, it was an interesting read. Definitely worth the read, I think, for me. This is a book that follows Domhilda, who is a midwife in a long line of midwives. And while she is the narrator of the book, and technically the story is kind of about her, it's more actually about her late great aunt, who was also a midwife, died 4 years prior to the story taking place, leaving Domhilda with her flat and all of its contents. And throughout the story, Domhilda basically sifts through the flat and goes through a lot of her possessions, namely a box containing a whole load of manuscripts, because her great aunt, who was also actually called Domhilda, was in the process of writing a book throughout the course of her life. And basically Domhilda, the narrator, the younger one, is kind of takes it upon herself to sift through the manuscript and see if she can discern any kind of message from it, I guess. It's all quite bitty and disjointed, so it's quite difficult to do so, and the nature of this book actually reflects that kind of disjointedness as well. It kind of jumps from topic to topic and kind of travels back into like the past in terms of like memories and flashbacks. So yeah, there's a kind of a sense of that disjointedness in this book as well. It wasn't really what I was expecting from this book. I was expecting the book to be kind of focused on Domhilda's experiences as a midwife, and focused kind of primarily about that, and maybe her working kind of in the lead up to Christmas. As I said, this is a book that just so happens to be set during Christmas, but it's not actually about Christmas at all. There, you know, there's there are a few mentions of Christmas kind of scattered throughout the book, but yeah, it's not really a Christmas book. It's a literary fiction book that happens to be set in December. So yeah, I was kind of expecting the book to be focused on her, but it is very much focused on the elder Domhilda, and her writings. There is a lot of space in the book that is dedicated to sorting through the manuscripts and dissecting them. So yeah, not entirely what I was expecting. There were a lot of kind of philosophical musings about the world, and some decent like lines and quotes and stuff. But I think the fact that it was so disjointed kind of threw me off a little bit. It made it quite difficult to read. I found the start pretty strong, and I found the end very strong. There's kind of a big storm that happens towards the end of the book, and it's very atmospheric. And it only lasts kind of 1 or 2 pages, and I wish it had lasted a little bit longer, because it was very well written. It felt very kind of climactic. So yeah, the start and the end, very strong. The middle I kind of struggled to get through. But yeah, I still think it was worth reading, despite all of that. And I'm glad I did. Glad I discovered it. I'm glad I have now read a book translated from Icelandic. Very exciting. Yeah, so that was Animal Life. So that's it. Those are all the books that I had planned to read for this challenge, for this video. I think there were 12 in total, I believe. And considering it is currently the 11th of December, that is like more than 1 book a day. That's like 1.0809 books in a day, which I think is pretty good going, despite the fact that most of these books are quite short. I'm still counting it as a win. So these are all of the physical books. I think this is actually the first video, kind of reading challenge video I've done where most of the books were actually online as ebooks. So that's pretty interesting. These are all the physical books. Highlights for this challenge, I think some of my favourite reads were Make My Wish Come True. Really enjoyed this one. And also The Nightmare Before Kissmas, which I was very pleasantly surprised by. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. So that's pretty good. And then low lights were definitely the Under the Mistletoe series. Most of those stories were not great, not really my cup of tea. So I'm actually quite glad I started off the video with those ones, because it was setting my expectations quite low, to be honest. So yeah, a real mixed bag, actually. Quite a varied lot of books. Yeah, that said, I am fully Christmased out, and we're not even halfway through the month yet, so that's great. I'm gonna go and read some like other books that have nothing to do with Christmas now. I'll try and cleanse myself before we get down to the real festivities of real life. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you've gotten to this point, if you've gotten to the end. It takes some sheer dedication. There have been a lot of books in this video, so a lot of yapping, and I apologise. Mostly to me, actually, future me, who is having to edit this entire video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for even more content. And you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok and Storygraph. My username on all of those platforms is @WithLivJones if you want to see even more content from me. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!